I found something. Found a place. It's massive in there. It just goes on and on and on. All these rooms. This place builds them. Actually, more like it remembers them. And the more times it remembers something, the less it does.
In today's video, we're going to be discussing a couple of things, not just the speculative part of whatever theories I'm gonna, tell you about, but then also some of the thoughts that I would have regarding what I want to see from the movie, what I want to see from the rest of the series, and maybe some recaps based off of the interviews that I've had with Kane Parsons himself. To put things into perspective, the last time that I ever did a thoughts and speculations video was almost 2 years ago, and that was based off of the story of Found Footage 3, amongst other things there, where I was probably talking about the sun, just like we're going to talk about the sun today. That's just like the sun is so important in this series, and if it's not obvious, I don't know what else is. So a few talking points here. So again, we're going to segment this video into two different things. We're going to have the speculative part first, as opposed to second, as we always do, and then we're going to have the thoughts about the series, the movie, what have you, things that I would like to see from the series itself, as well as the movie that will come out in May. So for the speculative part, again, the sun is really important, and it is also well known that Kane has stated that we have already seen the ending. If anything, even the soundtrack that's available for the Backrooms will tell us pretty much the story, as well as maybe even the ending itself. And so that got me thinking for maybe several years now, and I've been kind of waiting to see if something would pop up. So here we are at this moment. We've seen imagery of the sun over and over and over again since probably the celestial chart from the home movie that is attached to the Found Footage 2 video, which you saw in the intro, which has like the painting that, the Found Footage 2 protagonist sees, and then when you watch the other video, you see that that particular painting existed in someone else's living room. So the major speculation and the theory that I have is I want to discuss the concept of us already seeing the ending and what that ending could be and how it is tied to the sun. Now, I think the sun is capable of giving us life and taking it away. It is a finite source of power, but to humanity, it may seem like an infinite source of power. So if we go back, way back to Pitfalls, which is one of my favorite episodes, poor Marv. Marvin is an unfortunate soul, and he's been through so much. And I honestly hope that he has a moment where he can get some closure, because damn. So within Pitfalls, Marv falls through the hole. Whoops. Oh, wait. Hold on. Something really important happened before that. The door gets open and we see the green light. Remember the green light. Okay, always remember the green light. Never forget the green light. This wire is what's providing that. This is connected to the sun here. I'm like dropping shit. But so, okay, we have Pitfalls, right? Marvin falls through, goes through that secondary area, and then goes to the red zone. The red zone. We have the red neighborhoods. Oh my goodness, everything is red. And we hear that warbling sound. That warbling sound, which we confirmed, is tied to a solar wave hitting a satellite. I also covered that in a video, Thoughts and Speculations, like a while back. So I'll link that. It was probably in the same video where I talked about Found Footage 3. So because that's when I discovered it. So I'll go ahead and link that in the description below, and maybe timestamp it if I can remember that. And if by this point it's not timestamped next to that link, please let me know, because I'll go ahead and do that. So we have that red light. Oh my God, you hear that, the warbling sound, and then that's not a fucking person, happens. That is very green. I'm gonna have to switch this other one to red, because this is way too much. Hold on one second. There you go. Okay, good. So, I didn't realize that was going to be the next color, and I'm like really happy. So you have the warbling sound. So that is a confirmation that we have some space stuff happening. I mean, if you look up within those red neighborhoods, you'll see it's stars, empty space, but you don't see a sun, but you do see the bright red light everywhere. Hold that thought. So we're going to fast forward all the way to found footage 3. And what have we already determined? A lot of you already know that Ravi, who is the name of the protagonist in found footage 3, his name stands for sun. So already, again, sun. We have that there. Okay. And scattered throughout found footage 3, there is literal posters of smiling suns everywhere. So again, that is happening again there. The sun is mentioned and seen in so many ways and shapes and forms, etc. And then the red cities happen. The red neighborhoods in found footage 3 are so cool because it's not just like the neighborhood thing, but it's like these skyscrapers. Skyscrapers in space. It's insane. Even Ravi has like the most like relatable reaction to seeing everything around him, especially that gigantic sign that's that's down by the road. It's just a weird what the fuck moment. It truly is. But again, you hear that warbling sound during that part in the very beginning when he first discovers those areas, and also when he is ultimately, passing away. He's dying. The camera's dying off and everything else. And then you hear the awesome violins afterwards. So that whole sequence there is amazing. We have another thing that is touched on. There's a concept that is brought up within found footage 3 as well, and that is the concept of time travel, especially because we see that poster that's on the wall that is dated 2022, which honestly is probably the most like far forward thing that's out there in this series. That's pretty insane to me. Once I saw that, I was like, oh my god, we're fucked. We're so screwed. We're absolutely fucked here. Another instance of time travel is informational video. Within informational video, Peter Tench unfortunately jumps several months into the future, and the snowball effect of what happens afterwards, the domino effect, is catastrophic. Whether or not Peter Tench is still alive or kept somewhere, again, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, he slipped and fell down and hit his head on a rock. I don't know. Whoops. How convenient was that rock? I'm going to keep saying that. It's just like, it's super convenient. Maybe, I don't know. It is super convenient. There's nothing else I could say about that. But anyway, Peter Tench jumped into the future, saw the new control center, that new like command center area that Standard had, and everything all shit hit the fan for that. But again, the most important thing is time travel is happening, or the idea of pockets being from different points in time is something that I want to touch base on as well. We have the concept of the sun being brought in from found footage 3, found footage 2, the home movie that's attached to it, and then also pitfalls, specifically the red neighborhoods. So what does that tell us? So what does that tell me? For me, it was very obvious to me that there was something just not quite right about how the Backrooms was rendering the red areas. There was no proper, everything seemed really, really goofy, upside down, way too big, just off center. And of course the sky, something about the sky, even though it was just like a clear sky, that's very clear. That's like, you're not sitting in Maine looking up, those stars looked way bigger than normal. There's something off about it. It was like we were in a space station pretty much, and not on Earth. And so, something about that was just different, the way that the night sky was being displayed. So that got me thinking. We already know what the ending could possibly be. It's been in front of us. It's already been shown. We have seen it. But again, I'll stress this because it has been said before, the ending is not the important part. Getting to the end here is not the goal, okay, for this whole entire story. That's the way that I see it. I believe that the end is a tool to carry the story along here for even way beyond the ending. So like the ending is not truly the ending. And I'll talk about that in a moment here. Because I truly believe that the sun plays a vital role in ending us all. And that won't happen for a very, 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 very long time. Okay. And that's what scares me here. Because what if the Backrooms is pulling beyond the end point? What if it's pulling from the future and it's pulling beyond our end? And then it's also pulling from our present as well as our past and merging all those things together. And then we have this clusterfuck of a world, this insane universe where nothing makes sense. You know, we have the Backrooms here. Another thoughts and speculations video that I did for Overflow way back was when I discovered the concept of the solar storms happening on August 2nd, 1972, which is the same date that is on that contract that Ivan Beck has signed, which caused the green light to happen. Once again, that green light showed up, which was in found footage 2 at the very end, which I think the green light is maybe the expansion. I think that's like essentially the printing process is happening, you know? But the fact of the matter is that was happening outside, okay? That happened outside of the Backrooms. That happened to Ivan Beck. That happened to somebody. That happened in the office. So what the hell happened there? That's another mystery in itself. But we're going to treat that as a moment where the solar storms kicked off something that was way before the prototype that we saw earlier in the series. So this dates us back into the 1970s. So, you know, Ivan's been messing around since then. Okay. So we have, again, the sun to blame for a lot of things at this point. Maybe to kickstart it, maybe the sun's solar waves is what kicked everything off. And that's why we're hearing all of that, within found footage. And that's why we're hearing the warbling sound within the red neighborhoods and all of that. Okay, so now that we've mentioned Overflow, found footage 2, pitfalls, everything else, and the red neighborhoods, the green light, the sun imagery in found footage 3, now it's time for me to tell you, and I'm not even going to call it the end of the story, okay? I'm just going to call it the end, all right? Because again, I don't think the end is truly the end of the story, and it is a tool and part that will play into the meat and potatoes of this whole entire story here. I believe that the sun essentially is it's a finite source of energy, okay? But to human civilization, to us, in our puny little existence in the universe, it seems infinite, but eventually the sun will die, okay? And that source of power is what is powering the Backrooms itself. In lighting and tile survey, it is very clear that all of these lights are being powered indefinitely, at least to us. Nobody knows where the source of power comes from. It's pretty much imaginary. You know, it's turning on when it's even taken down. There's a lot of things here that sort of point to a very like off the wall, celestial way of things being powered. So I strongly believe that the sun is indeed powering the Backrooms itself. And that's what we're seeing. Okay. That's how it continues to, forge, copy and paste. But what's happening is that we're having what is called a bit of a Xerox effect. What happens when you copy of a copy and you copy another copy of a copy? It just gets more and more fried. It just looks awful eventually. That is happening here for the most part. Aside from that, I also feel like it's also just having issues rendering things because it is indeed pulling from a timeline where the sun does not exist, where that power is not there, where the world doesn't exist. Okay? So what happens to a sun when it's dying? It expands to a red giant and it consumes everything that is around it. The amount of heat and the light that gets pushed out during that time is going to be insane. And not only that, but then it'll expand and it'll consume planets, okay? It's going to take over all the planets, right? And essentially, if we were standing on Earth and we were watching that unfold, what is it that we would see? We would see a red sun in the sky. Remember that. Remember that sentence, red sun in the sky, okay? We have lighting and tile survey to kind of, tell us, hey, we don't know where this power is coming from, but it seems to be powered indefinitely and meant to be on forever. What else is almost a infinite source of power, right? But the fact that it's still copying and it still has space is because of space itself. There's no other amount of area around us that would have a large expanse of indefinite space other than space. I mean, for fuck's sake, async calls it a space. It's really on the nose there, but I truly believe that they know a little bit of something out there. Also, that camera from Found Footage 1 drops out of the sky. That's a whole nother thing. It clips back into reality from our sky, and also it puts us back up into the stratosphere. It puts us back up into space. I'm really excited about this. I love this so much. So we have the red sun theory, okay? We have the red sun theory because of the fact that the sun will eventually die out. So the sun dies, the Backrooms doesn't even care about time, so it keeps copying, right? But it pulls in from a place that has no data, no energy, okay? So then how does it power itself? So if it continually tries to pull from different areas in this like Swiss cheese kind of setup, because there's so many holes, people falling through, you have all this shit happening, so it's not really something that we can comprehend. And I don't think it's something that we're supposed to comprehend, but essentially something is happening where the Backrooms continues to copy and pull from the power and the current day and and in the past where it does have that ability, but it still scopes out into the future. But then it kind of merges things together and doesn't really know what is what, because in one instance, the Earth is here, and in the next, it's not. Okay? So that's why you end up with these like weird red neighborhoods with a clear sky of the stars, the red, light from the sun, along with the warbling sound from solar waves, because it's so close to our face, It's almost like at that moment, that snapshot, maybe that's like right at the very end before everything's gone. Now that we're thinking about the red sun theory, as being a part of the quote ending, and that's what we have seen so far, so blatantly in our face, right? I want to talk about the Backrooms trailer that dropped earlier last month, which is phenomenal. God, I love that trailer. It's so good. I can't wait to see that movie. By the way, Japan has not announced a release date for that movie yet. So I live in Tokyo, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to see the movie because it hasn't been announced in Japan yet. And a lot of times, some of these movies take like over 6 months to appear here. So unless I can make it over to LA on like the release date, then I don't know what I'm going to do. So I don't know, maybe talking about it will help, manifest something in my favor. Hopefully I'll be able to see it, because it would honestly, that would be the best thing if I could see that movie when everybody else is able to, because I don't want to hide and wait, and all that stuff, because everybody's going to be talking spoilers, and I don't want that. I don't want to feel like that, but it is what it is. I just hope that I have a chance to watch it. So back to the trailer. When Clark goes through the wall, we have all these concepts. So I was thinking about this red sun theory, and I was like, man, so what out there could potentially not prove, but what could help me sort of solidify this concept here? Well, static dead end, which answered a question to us in a certain way. All of us were wondering what the hell was behind the door, right? And the door at Pitfalls was a door that we saw with a green light. Same green light that we saw in Found Footage 2, same green light that we've seen in Overflow, The same green light that we've seen even in found footage 1 and also in found footage. It's everywhere. If you go back, there's green light everywhere because the Backrooms is constantly printing. It's constantly creating, right? So in Static Dead End, we man, I was so happy, but I was also kind of mad because I was expecting green, but now I understand because what happened during Pitfalls was indeed time sensitive. Something was happening at that moment and we missed it. We missed it. And what is the end result now is what we saw in Static Dead End. So aside from it being time sensitive, it was pretty obvious that the green light was happening when, Pitfalls, occurred. Fast forward to Static Dead End, we go inside. So we go inside, right? And the camera's looking around and everything, and then something sticks out. I'm not talking about like the null zones or anything like that. I'm not talking about the squares or anything like that. What I'm talking about is what is happening to the wallpaper, which is something we have never seen before yet. I haven't seen an instance of the wallpaper doing that, except for maybe in Pitfalls, where there was some like stretched out stuff going on with some of the walls and everything. That is, again, it's super strange. If it did pop up, it's something that I missed, and please tell me, But that is the first time that I've seen it. The lines are going across because it's incomplete, and I don't know if any of you know of this term, but what I would consider that as is called texture clamping. So essentially how texture clamping works. I'm not going to get into the specifics here, but once the pixel or the color, whatever, once the color gets rendered, right? And it reaches the edge of like the pixel or anything like that, and maybe there's nothing else that can be rendered afterwards, it simply smears it across the remaining area because it has nothing left to go for. That's pretty much the end, right? So what if like what we're seeing there is literally the Backrooms kind of going, oh, well, I don't know what else to do, and texture clamp, boom, like all the way across. Sometimes it was like very spotty, like you could see some of the wallpaper there, but then the rest of it was like you had those straight lines all the way down that hallway. And then when you get further across, you see that weird section that kind of looks like it wanted to do the Pitfalls again, but it didn't. You have those indentations on the floor. You had like you had like objects everywhere that were like half rendered. I don't know if those things are things that fell down or maybe things that it tried to render, but it was like, oh, well, I got nothing else to do, so I'm just going to do a half-assed job, And then you had that really cute, like, white chair on the top of the hill at the very end. And then you had like that table that was like halfway through the wall. There was even like a soccer ball that was like halfway in there. It's essentially that whole section is the Backrooms failing to mimic. It's failing to mimic. Why? Because maybe it's starting to realize, oh shit, I'm running out of data, so I just got to do whatever I can do. I mean, it's not realizing that. That's just like it is what it is situation. That's how it can only go on by just like copying and pasting with what it has. And it's working with what it has left. And what it has left is these like really messed up like sections of places that it wants to mimic. So I'm treating Static Dead End as proof of the Backrooms failing to mimic, failing to copy properly, and the first indicator that, hey, it's starting to lose its juice in some way, shape, or form because of how far forward it may be copying from. Okay, if it's sourcing its power from a point where the sun and the earth doesn't exist, or these particular sections on earth don't exist anymore, and it may be throughout the life of whatever object it's copying that it's failing to do so because of time travel itself. So that's a whole nother possibility. That is not a set in stone situation. So we've talked about Static Dead End, how it's a failed, rendering moment. the green light didn't do what it needed to do. And that was pretty early on in the series. That wasn't something that happened like, close to like found footage 3. Like we got that pretty damn early on. We've been seeing the green light too pretty early on as well, even in found footage 1. So Kane's been at work, with this pretty like freaking early in everything. So, all right, this last piece here. So we've talked about the red sun theory and how that may be the end of our universe, the end of our Earth, and the end of its, quote, infinite power, because, for humanity, we won't live long enough. We won't live long enough to see the end of the sun, doing its thing. The Earth, however, will. And whatever we have built will remain here after we've long gone and we've like ceased to exist. Beyond our extinction, our ruins will be here, and the Backrooms will continue to copy over and over again. And by the way, this also kind of like, you guys remember how like Kane told us, Async is not, they're not the villains, and that's very, very true. They're not like the mustache twirling villains here. I feel like there is hubris, but I don't think that the hubris is the villain. The true villain is time and the sun's power. Those are the two things there. And I mean, time is kind of like the one that oversees everything on top of, even the sun itself. But yeah, Ivan just seems to be an enigma for me, because we know that he's around, but what is he doing that he seems so elusive to all of us, and everybody else that's involved in the story? And what was he up to back in the 1970s? And what happened to him? Because that occurred not inside of the back rooms, but that occurred in our realm. That contract is from an office that existed outside of the back rooms. But we're seeing the green light there. Before we move on to the thoughts that I would like to see, within the Backrooms movie, is specifically the last 8 tracks of Volume 3. Okay, so we're looking at the last 8 tracks of Volume 3, and I'm holding it in my hand right now. First off, we have Threshold. Pretty obvious. Again, I think these kind of tell us a whole story here. Threshold. We know what the threshold is. That's the door into the back rooms that was created by Async, and quite possibly every single other no-clip area that could be considered that. Off the deep end, we have often heard mention of the sea, even the sun setting into the sea, swallowed by the sea, the endless sea, the darkness, engulfing. Space could also be considered that as well. But off the deep end is almost a way for us to say that after the threshold, we jumped off the deep end. There's no coming back. And then right after that, the next track is called Rest Forever in This Dead End, which is one of my favorite tracks on this album. It's got one hell of a like part with the guitar. It's like so soothing. I love it. It's melancholy and it's maybe a little depressing and uplifting all at the same time. It's really nice. I really love that. Rest Forever in This Dead End. Essentially, we're stuck. We are going to rest forever in this dead end. But who or what is resting forever in this dead end? Could it be the Backrooms itself that is resting forever in the dead end because it's open, it's alive, it's doing its thing, but it's doomed? That sort of thing. And I don't know exactly like what else that could be other than maybe even humanity itself resting forever in the dead end, or maybe the dead end that we're running into at this point after this Pandora's box has been opened. After that, we have Still Life and Still Life Part 2. One of our favorite tracks. I know a lot of you enjoy that. I love it too. Still Life can most certainly be placed into consideration for something that is dead. There is plenty of art out there where something deceased has been displayed, regarding art. So it doesn't even have to be art. Just the idea of still life, something that is dead can be considered into that categorization. So after those two, you have another track that is in Chinese, and when you translate it, it translates to gas oven. I mean, come on. What is the sun made out of? You got like plasma, you got gas, you got a whole bunch of stuff happening up there. You know, everything that's charged, electrified, and causing a lot of heat, fire, everything. You know what I mean? That is like, that's the sun. It's talking about gas, you know, who knows what else. And then right after that, you got, do you like air conditioning? Yeah, I like air conditioning when it's really hot, you know. So, you know, that's telling us the earth is going to get hot. Things are going to heat up, you know. Do you like it? Because you're going to need it. And of course, remember I told you guys to remember a line earlier in this video. The last track in this is called Red Sun in the Sky. When I read that, I was like, holy shit, hold on a second. Red sun in the sky, you know? And I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know. That's red sun, you know, it's turned into a red star. It's heating up. It's consuming everything, you know? And that's where I kind of close into that, because I believe that is where we kind of solidify that concept of the red star theory and the red sun theory, however you want to call it. I will call it either one of those, right? So you have the red sun theory. You have that mentioned in the third volume for the Backrooms soundtrack. And Kane has told us time and time again that we can decipher and extrapolate so much about the story if we pay attention to the soundtrack itself and the titles, the artwork, and even the sounds. Now, I want you guys to help me with something, because I don't know if I'm crazy, but in Red Sun in the Sky, when you listen to that, towards the very end, there is a melody that you can hear, okay? I don't know if that melody is the same guitar or piano melody that you hear in Rest Forever in this dead end. If those two are connected, it almost seems like they are to me. If those two are truly connected, then we definitely have something to think about for those two. And we may not see this being shown for a very long time or at any point. It's maybe something that is told to us in passing, maybe in a report or something like that. But I don't think it'll be such a monumental thing in the story, because again, the end and that is not the true thing. You know, it's not, the ending is not like the end all be all. It's not the true goal of the entire story by Kane Parsons. And a side note too, some of the imagery with Ivan, you know, he's standing in front of like not only green light, but yellow and orange sort of light. Like, dude is like dealing with some stuff. What is happening? You know what I mean? I'm so fascinated by that character and the mystery that follows him. But anyway, so that's my speculation on the red sun theory and how that could potentially be the quote end of our story as humanity. You know, that could potentially be the end of the story for the Backrooms itself, and how we are seeing it happen in real time, because it's not able to properly print and mimic everything that it wants to mimic. It's running out of memory. It's running out of power, but it will never run out of space. It won't. That is infinite. That will continue. And that's why it can just continually expand all this failure. But eventually it might start copying its own failures into itself. So, you know, and then, you know, once you get into that, and you go into the concept of things are maybe escaping or getting out of the threshold. In Found Footage 3, we clearly see that something ran out of the wall, ran out of the closet, and ran through the window in the basement area that Ravi was at. So there's so many things that are happening, you know, all at the same time there. But I really think that we have seen the ending, and the ending is the sun ends up going out. Time is our true enemy, and so is the sun. But again, time rules overall, and eventually the power that is provided to the back rooms will eventually die out. And that's why we end up with these failure areas where we have the texture clamping happening on the walls. This is kind of like a side note here. This is another thing too. There's not that much to it, but it is another way to kind of bring in the sun into the situation. The Ottoman Empire sigil, like the main representation of the Ottoman Empire's influence during its reign. It reigned for 600 years and it died off slowly, just like the sun dies off slowly. And its emblem, its flag, its sigils, often were represented with the sun because of its radiance, the Ottoman Empire's radiance over the land. But again, it reigned for 600 years, or just over 600 years, and it slowly died off. It just like immediately died. It was like a slow die off, just like the sun. Now that you've listened to me and my like just insane tangent about the red sun theory, I wanted to talk about my thoughts on the movie and what I would like to see. So the first thing that I want to see in the movie is red neighborhoods. I can't shut up about them, but I would love to see that within a cinematic scope. And I know that we're getting found footage. I'm so excited about that. During the interview that I had with Kane several years ago regarding the announcement for the movie when it first dropped, that was back when he got 2 million subscribers on YouTube. I was lucky enough to be able to do an interview with him, which was pretty badass. And he talked about that the whole movie would just be cinematic, but things have changed since then. And now we're seeing a found footage segment being showcased even in the trailer. So I'm really happy about that. That was actually something that I wanted to see. I wanted to see more found footage done on the big screen. So that is not something that I want. That's something that I know that will be delivered. So I'm really excited to see that. But yeah, I want to see red neighborhoods within a cinematically shot sequence. That would be so cool. So another thing is that we know that the movie is rated R, and it's rated R for language and some violent content and bloody imagery. So are we going to see the entities essentially get to attack somebody, and we're going to be able to see what happens once they get the person, or are we just going to see a lot of the end results of an entity attack, or the end result of somebody succumbing to the elements, like Ravi, for example? Oh my God, what if we run into his corpse? What if this movie, that's another thing that I would like to see. What if we see people that we have seen in found footage? What if we run into Ravi's corpse, or even like while Ravi's about to die? What if we see the found footage 2 protagonist? What if we see the corpse of the found footage 1, even though that was supposed to be like Kane, but we know that character got snatched at the very end of found footage 1, so maybe we'll see something like that. Or maybe we'll see countless people who went missing. Remember, there was a lot of people that no-clipped and went missing. We saw that in Missing Persons. So hopefully we'll see something like that there. Maybe we'll see Nathan Barnett because I know that was his picture in that shot there. That was like one of his like college day photos, I think, So maybe we'll be able to see Nathan Barnett like hanging out there. Maybe, obviously not alive, but maybe we'll be able to see the people that went missing in Missing Persons. Please give us the Mines of Moria like column area that we saw in found footage 1 when the entity was chasing the protagonist. That sequence was one of my favorites. That's just like the endless, like very symmetrical halls that were formed because of the columns position. That whole sequence was so fucking badass. I love that. Give us more. Here's another thing that I want to see. Give us more green light. I want to see more green light. Give us some like Ivan stuff as well. I want to see some more async. I think async might actually take more of a back seat for this, it seems, except for the fact that we've seen some of the hazmat suits there. So they will make an appearance, but I don't think they won't be 100% there, because they're sort of like, maybe they're realizing, oh shit, we kind of fucked up, So maybe they're just monitoring the situation. They're obviously monitoring because in the trailer there is a camera out there, and Clark is being surveyed on a television. But yeah, I want to see more green light. I want to see more red neighborhoods and things like that. That would be really cool. And of course, I want to see more of the yellow wallpaper everywhere. I honestly, I really hope that within the 30,000 square feet of set pieces that were made for this movie, we get to see a section with higher ceilings, vaulted ceilings. I really enjoy whenever people create backrooms content with really high ceilings. I really enjoy that. Like that gives me a nice breath of fresh air. I really enjoy that. That's a lot of fun to see. And hopefully we are able to see more of the pool rooms sort of section. We do see a preview of that within the Backrooms trailer towards the very end. There's like a second clip of what seems to be maybe Clark at a wall or something like that, and we do see some tiling and some water behind him. What would be really cool is if the found footage section is done throughout the set itself, and somebody legitimately had a VHS camcorder and just went to town and filmed it. That would be so cool. I really hope that I get a chance to see some like behind the scenes stuff regarding how that sequence was shot. If that was done in Blender, that's cool, but we do get to see, Clark and the other two characters, leading a rope down, and there's obviously like an entity chase or something happens to them. I think that there is a shot that has been posted where you see a couple pairs of shoes behind Clark, and they look very similar to the shoes that belonged to those two people that were in the furniture store with him, and also in the found footage segment that is previewed in the trailer. Another thing that I want to see is Marv. I want to see Marvin. Give us Marv. I want to see Marvin. I don't know who could he be played by. I don't know. Maybe Marv will just stay in a hazmat suit. Maybe Marv will continually be some sort of character like Hunk from Resident Evil, where he never takes off his mask, but he's such an important character to the series. But I want to see Marv. Marv deserves a whole lot more. Marv deserves, closure. He's biting his tongue right now. He's biting his tongue. During Static Dead End, we hear that conversation between Staff and himself, and he's clearly just distraught. And I want to see some closure for the guy because he deserves it. And maybe we get to hear some more about Peter Tench, and his family and exactly what happened there. I want to see somebody just blow the lid on this whole situation. We still have a lot of unfinished connections here, and there is the message that we see in Pitfalls where it says, if anybody, blame him. Like, how did that video get in there? Who is placing those messages in there? Now, this isn't necessarily something that I wish to see. I know that this is something that will happen. I cannot wait to hear Kane's soundtrack because Kane's production work for music is incredible. And I'm so honored that Kane created several tracks for my Liminal Space Exploration series, specifically the theme song for Grasp of Liminality, my series on YouTube, and also the first two episodes were done by him, and that's just been a phenomenal experience. I'm so happy that I got a chance to do that with him, but I cannot wait to hear what the soundtrack will be like. I know the man likes to sit down and just make music all the time. That's how he relaxes. That's how he thinks. That's how his creative pulse continues, is with music. And that was such a wonderful point of relatability between us when we talked about being able to create based off of the music that we're hearing. So a lot of this is it's musical. I can't wait to see how all of this plays out based off of the music that he makes. I want to see more TV spots before the movie comes out. I want to see more added to this ARG. I know the ARG is simply a way to market and bring us in. The same thing happened with Cloverfield. You know, one of the things that I really enjoyed was like Cloverfield's marketing campaign was so cool because not only did it involve like fake commercials like we're seeing with the Backrooms movie. I'm so happy to see stuff like that finally, you know. Hollywood, hello, wake up. This is the future. Just stick to it and things will be fine. You know what I mean? So for Cloverfield, they not only had like TV spots that were mysterious and just like they didn't make any sense, you know, but then you also had like fake websites that included fake data about like some company out in the ocean that was drilling and all these other things that were just pulling people in for this Cloverfield movie. And it was so well done because the community got together and that was so fascinating to see. So honestly, I feel like sitting down one day, and if you guys are interested, I would love to do this. I would love to kind of collect all the information regarding the ARG, the ongoing ARG, regarding the Captain Clark's TV spot, the faxes that come in, and the responses and everything like that, and the numbers that you call. I know that there's like a whole bunch of other steps that are involved with it. I want to look into it. That's not really something that I wanted to focus on, but honestly, if all of you are interested in me doing that, I can probably do that. You know, that'd be super cool to dive into. I know a lot of folks have already figured out a lot regarding the ARG. And again, the ARG will just be for that marketing campaign. I hope it extends beyond the movie itself, but I feel like this is very necessary to like kind of pull people in and market the movie and make people interested. And it won't necessarily be like something that will carry the story along, but it is really interesting to see the community get together. And it's like just to see how far, you know, Kane's influence is going into, you know, all these facets for marketing. It's like super cool because, you know, it's genius level stuff. You know, I love seeing people getting interested who have never seen the series before. I know there's friends of mine. This is the really cool thing, is that I have a lot of friends who have often watched my Twitch stream, and I like to play a lot of liminal space games for like, for example, the Complex Expedition and the original Complex found footage. There's also Pools. That's a really good one. There's been so many out there, but there's some like really, really good ones, and they're just like they're definite works of art, and they're a lot of passion behind it. You know, I've always seen the Backrooms and liminal spaces in general as like a blank canvas. There's so much that you can do within that blank canvas that the possibilities are endless, you know, for us to just create whatever we want. And I would really like that. I would really like for this movie, for the Backrooms movie, to kind of be a super catalyst for liminal space movies. I really want to see like experimental work. You know, David Lynch is no longer with us, but I feel like with people like Kane and others, I feel like things are going to be okay when it comes to, you know, when it comes to movies. I feel like things are going to be fine. And even with David Lynch's passing, I feel like now the torch has been passed in some way, shape, or form. I still think like David Lynch is still out there and of course in everybody's hearts and everybody's minds. You know, the guy's like influence was insane. Just a little fun fact: the first movie that I ever saw as a kid was David Lynch's Eraserhead. If that's not proof enough of like, oh, now I understand how, like, why this person is the way that they are, I don't know what is. But yeah, that was a wonderful movie. It was screwed up, especially seeing it at what I don't know how old I was. I think I was like 6 or 7, and it just that movie stuck in my brain forever. And I love his work. But yeah, I think at this point, this movie is definitely going to be a catalyst for a lot of future movies to not be scared to experiment in this sort of world. I'm really happy that A24 took the chance and trusted Kane with this. I feel like Hollywood is now going to be more ready to accept this sort of movie. You know, I know Skinamarink was sort of one of the first ones that kind of tiptoed into it. You know, that was very liminal and very scary and just, yeah. But again, it was very polarized. I don't think a lot of the population was ready for Skinamarink. Even though Skinamarink was great, I don't think a lot of people were ready for it. I think now, maybe. I think now is the time for more movies like this. All right, well, I think I have yapped quite enough already. I'm so happy to be back in this seat and talking about thoughts and speculations once more about the Backrooms. And I know that this won't be the last one. Beyond the movie, we're probably going to see more episodes on YouTube. The story's not over. The story will not end with the movie for sure. And there's countless other stories that we need to cover, not just, stories that have been made by Kane, but we've got plenty of other amazing creative brains out there that I want to dive into their stories and see what I can come up with. But yeah, folks, thank you so much for being here. And if you have any thoughts or speculations, or if you have anything to add to this conversation, anything to add to this video, it is one of my favorite things to do, is to be able to see what you have to say and have discussions with you down in the comments. Regarding all the videos that I talked about, I will link them all below. Also, I stream on Twitch almost every other day. Honestly, it's been almost every day as of late. So if you do want to check out the live stream, I do have a link down there always for you to click on, and make sure to follow over there and check us out. I do play a lot of liminal space games. I talk about photography and cinematography as well, because that's what I do on a daily basis myself. So that is one thing that I would like to do, is to kind of bring you guys over there and, and talk shop if you want, and just watch me play games and just hang out for a little bit. I also have an ongoing series myself. Make sure to check it out. The Grasp of Liminality series. I have 3 episodes out. I covered Kiyosumi Shirakawa Station, Shiodome Station, as well as Higashi Narita Station. Those areas are phenomenal. And being able to capture these areas in Tokyo and in Chiba when they're at their most solitary is so amazing. I can't begin to describe to you the feeling that I have whenever I find these places in their deepest moment of contrast. But make sure to go ahead and check it out. I'll place a link in the description below. Remember, Kane made some of the tracks for it too, so you get to hear some of Kane's influence in that as well. All right, folks. Well, if you enjoyed watching, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel to catch us next time. I hope to see you all again. And as always, take care. Peace. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.